Welcome to the Free Efficient Entrepreneur Show, the only productivity show about working less and enjoying life more. Get rid of overwhelming to-do lists, kick anxiety to the curb, and do more of what makes you happy. Are you ready to live life on your own terms? This is true freedom. This is efficiency by design. Welcome to Free Efficiency with Dr. Anna Cragen.
So hello everybody, it is Anna Cragen here, back for another episode of the Free Efficient Entrepreneur Show. This is number 5, and I'm going to spare you the song, but this is episode number 5 of the Free Efficient Entrepreneur Show, and I am so excited about this episode, as you can probably tell, because we have a guest today, and fingers crossed, and all the offerings to the technology gods that we will have video this time, and no tech glitches. So, I am super excited to welcome you guys to the show. I am Anna Cragen, founder of freeefficiency.com. I help you guys with all of your productivity needs in a stress-free way. And speaking of stress-free, the title of today's episode is How to Be Zen while you are running multiple businesses and basically have a ton of stuff going on with your family. So I am excited to introduce our guest today, Jessica Buchanan. She is a Reiki and shamanic healer, yoga teacher, a mystic minister, and a mother of 6 from Littleton, Colorado. She runs 4 businesses, 2 yoga studios, an online spiritual community, and a company that offers a trained team of wedding ministers and officiants. She is also co-pastor at her local church, which is a brand new interfaith inclusive church in South Denver. And she combines her creativity, flexibility, and enthusiasm to all her endeavors. Her why is helping others to learn to love and express their authentic divine selves. And all her ventures are driven by this goal. Isn't that such a lovely intro? So after this intro, why don't you guys say hello to Jessie Buchanan? There she is on video with us.
Hi guys!
Jessie, you are live! So
Yay!
Awesome to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just read your intro to the guests, but why don't you have anything to add or introduce yourself in your own words for us as well?
Awesome. Okay. Well, as you know, my name is Jessie. I live in Colorado, and first and foremost, I am a mother of 6 children whom I adore, but I'm also an entrepreneur, big time at heart, and also I consider myself a spiritual teacher, not because I think I'm better than anyone, but because I enjoy helping others on their path to further my own path and to grow myself. So kind of a fun gig, and I've found ways to make a living at that, so I'm really enjoying that. And so I've got a couple yoga studios. One's an actual studio, one's more of a community yoga program, and I've got a church that I'm co-pastoring with my dear friend Sam Lopez, and we also have our wedding officiant company, and then I have my little online thing, Rock and Woo, which is kind of my branding, and I'm actually working on transferring into that more of just a branding thing for my sanity. So I'm a busy girl, but I love it.
Nice.
I don't like to be bored. So.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see how you are not bored with all the different things that you have going on. So my first question for you, Jessie, is how did you come about to be involved in so many different things?
Yeah, so I've always really felt like I didn't belong in the traditional workforce. And so since I was young, I've been throwing business ideas out there and seeing what sticks. And so my first was when I was, about 24. I had a little salon, brick and mortar, in this small town I used to live in. And then I've tried other things like mobile salons. I did hair for 15 years. But more and more in the past 6 years, I've felt called into the ministry and the yoga teaching and such. And so I did my teacher training, and I just knew that I didn't want to go necessarily work for someone else. I was teaching at the studio that I co-own now, and kind of learning the ropes so that eventually I could open my own when she asked me to become partner. So that kind of fell into my lap. The wedding officiant thing, I was doing it with my friend Sam for fun. He was training me because he needed someone to help with his overflow. And we ended up having these venues just contact us and say, hey, we want to hire you exclusively. We had to put together a team like last minute of a bunch of ministers. It was crazy. It's been crazy. It's still crazy. The other little yoga program is in my neighborhood, and it's the karate studio. They asked if my friend and I could come in and just run some yoga out of there. So we've been doing that. And my online thing is where I play. Rock and Woo is where I play. So it's kind of not anything more than just a playground for me, and I change it around and do all kinds of stuff. I have a Facebook group called Rock and Woo where I go in and just start random spiritual discussions and such. And, you know, I'm just having fun with all of it. And then the church came about because Sam and I really wanted to spread our message of inclusive love and inclusive seeking of the divine. So they'll just kind of blend together.
Definitely, totally. That all sounds awesome, and the cool thing about it, and I'm sure you think it's cool as well, is that you all of your endeavors are kind of serving the same overarching goal, right? The same message that you want to spread through all of these avenues, which I think is excellent. So since this is a productivity show, I am very interested in knowing, and I'm sure the viewers and listeners out there are as well, what is kind of the biggest challenge for you productivity-wise in juggling so many different things that you do and that you love to do, but, you know, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So what do you find is your biggest challenge in juggling everything?
So my greatest challenge and my greatest superpower is that I do have ADHD, and I was just diagnosed this last year, and I've got on medicine in the last 6 months. And that's actually when everything took off, because I was able to finally find some focus. But the medicine is not what I would call my productivity hack. It certainly helps me. I think that my biggest productivity challenge would be that I want to do a million things all at once. And so what I've learned to do is to break it up into pieces and set my goals for the day. I set down my 3 main purposes for the day and make sure I get those done and focus on one thing till I get it done, which the medicine does help me with. But the other thing I've done, because I would get really overwhelmed because I'd want everything to be perfect. And so I would say my biggest productivity secret is being okay with the idea that done is better than perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that as long as I'm getting myself out there, it's okay if it's not amazing. Good is enough.
Yeah, totally. So many people need to hear this message. Even people who don't have, you know, a bazillion messages and a bunch of little kids running around, right? Yeah, totally. So focus on one thing and until it is done, and done is better than perfect. I love it. Awesome. Yep. So another thing that I'm sure that that you have your own system of dealing with, and I am anxious to hear about what that system is how do you keep it straight in your mind and also in your daily schedule of when you are working on, you know, one thing for the yoga studio versus one thing for one of your businesses? You know, like, I get that it's always one thing, but, you know, you have like, what, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 things, right?
So that's a work in progress. But at this point, I'm kind of starting to get it into a system where, so for instance, Sundays, generally, I didn't do it this Sunday, but generally I do all my blogging and my newsletter writing. Mondays, I work on wedding stuff because we get a lot of our information in from the venues on Mondays. Tuesdays, I tend to work on like online stuff like videos and stuff like that because the studio is pretty empty on Tuesdays, so I can do filming and stuff. Wednesdays is all Mahasal. My partner Tracy and I get together here. We call it the meeting of the Shamana Mamas because we're both shamans, and we just hash out all the things we need to take care of for Mahasal. Thursdays I try to take off when I can.
Wow.
And then,
okay. So you get a day off too, in addition to getting everything done. Okay.
I do.
We have to know all your secrets on the show right now.
Well, the day off is forced, and I don't like it because I love what I do, so I want to work. But I don't always succeed, but I do my best to take that day, because one of the things I teach in yoga and in everything is that you have to have the yin and the yang, the rest and the action. And if we're constantly pushing 100%, then we break down. So what I try to do, and I do this in my classes too, is we'll push really hard. We'll do some really hard asana moves, but then I have them lay on the floor and rest and breathe and come back into themselves. And I recognize that in all the cycles of our life, if we don't do that, then we're not going to get very far. So to me, that day off may seem gratuitous to some people, but to me, that's what enables me to continue to do everything that I do.
Yeah, totally. No, exactly. You got to have some downtime, some time planned.
Exactly.
Otherwise, otherwise you just get burnt out. And then what's the point, right?
Exactly.
Totally. So it sounds like you kind of have this theming going on with, Mondays are for this business, Tuesdays are for that, so on and so forth. How did you decide to do it that way? Why did you decide to do it that way?
I've been really working with trying to figure out how, with the way my mind works, because it is very busy with the ADHD, and the medicine helps, but it's not a fail-safe. So I've been really experimenting with different ways of working with my own brain. Bullet journaling has been really big for me. But I decided to do the theme days just because then I knew I'd have that set time to work on those things. But there's this thing is that one of the rules I have for myself is that it can be flexible. So while I have those theme days, I allow myself the flexibility that if wedding business comes up, or if something comes up with one of the studios on a day where that's not what I would be working on, that's what I do. Like whatever needs to be worked on gets priority above the themes. I try to break it down as much as possible, just so I kind of have a realistic expectation of how my time's going to be spent and how I'm not going to go crazy doing all this stuff.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And you've completely answered my second question for you, which is what about those things that do come up? Because even if you're like really disciplined, you're like, okay, Mondays are my days to work on, I forgot what you said, but let's say the the wedding officiant business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then something comes up later on in the week for that business. It's not like you wait until the next Monday to take care of it, right? You try to... Do you have like specific scheduled time within your theme days where you kind of take care of those things that pop up, or how do you manage those things?
I just kind of manage them as they come. I'm not very good at strict schedules. I don't really love rules as a general rule, which is why I have like this crazy array of businesses and stuff, because I really I don't like the feeling of being hemmed in by anything. And so I keep as much variety as I can. To me, that causes me more peace than insanity, where I understand with some people that would make them like, what am I doing? But for me, that's how I feel peaceful and comfortable. So I thrive in the chaos. So right. I just allow, and flexibility is the key to everything. In yoga, we say the only flexibility needed is flexibility of mind. So I don't let anything be hard and fast. Nothing can be hard and fast. It all has to be, this is what I hope to do today, but if something else comes up, then I'm just going to roll with it. And it always works out.
Yeah, right? So you don't stress out because that, okay, I've loosely planned this day for this task, but if something else comes up, then I know that I can always shift it. So, so that kind of makes me think about, well, if you do shift things around, like you said, being flexible is super important. So then do you do things like well in advance of when they're due? So like if you write content for your blog, do you do that like a month in advance so that if needed you could switch up the weeks? Or how does your system allow flexibility for that kind of stuff?
I wish that I could say yes I did and that I'm super organized and amazing, but actually I'm the queen procrastinator. I do everything last minute because that's when I do my best work. Always. So yeah, sometimes that means I have days where I'm really scrambling, but that, like I said, is when my greatest creations come into being. For instance, I was trying to make in advance, I actually got started in advance. I did the filming and everything, an amazing yoga video for all of you to give free for a little present at the end of this. And I thought that I could teach myself to edit videos in like a week. It didn't work. So today I was scrambling to get new little presents for you guys put together. And one of them is going to be a meditation, and it is still not done. I am so last minute that I'm late, and it will be there by midnight tonight. But when that kind of stuff happens, instead of beating myself up or saying, God, you're always procrastinating. Why are you so lazy? Or why don't you get things done? Why don't you start earlier? I just say, hey, this is who I am. It's okay. No walls are going to crumble because I did not do this exactly on time. It's not going to destroy my business. And I just say it. It's the way it is, and I roll with it. And you have to flow with things. I've let go a long time ago my attachment to the outcome with any of this stuff. So I just do the best I can, and done is better than perfect, and it will be done by midnight, and that's better than it being done perfectly 10 weeks from now. So
or never, right?
yeah, it'll be done. It's gonna get done.
Yeah, that is such a good message that you just said. I love that so much, because I feel like whenever people talk about productivity and time management and being efficient, they kind of like almost have the mental image of like, you got to be a machine, right? Like, okay, this day, like I'm writing 6 blog posts and I'm not standing up from this chair like no matter what until I'm done. And usually ironically, that becomes counterproductive, right? Because we lose our focus, we get burnt out, then we hate our blog. It feels like we're dragging ourselves really to come and do stuff on our business, which is so not the point, right? I love that you said that. You kind of have a general framework for like, okay, like here's my plan, but then you're open to a different plan depending on like how your week evolves, right?
That's
awesome.
It's just that flexibility.
Flexibility is the name of the game. And you're a yoga teacher, so how
I am. I'm not very physically flexible. That's kind of an entertaining aspect of that. I joke to my students that I became a yoga teacher to make them feel better about their asana practice, but but yeah, my mind is as flexible as they get.
Yeah, well, that's all you need, right? That's all you
totally
need. And then the other part too that I was really curious to see is the family aspect of how does your family life fit with your very, very busy professional life?
So it's been an adjustment, because for a lot of years I didn't really do much besides go teach a couple classes a week, or I might be gone for 2 or 3 hours a week, and now I am at the office a lot more. And that was an adjustment for my younger kids particularly. We're a blended family, and the 3 I gave birth to, my youngest 3, they homeschooled for 10 years. Like, they're used to having me around. And there was about a month when all of this came into being, because all these businesses kind of fell into place at the same time. There was no line of demarcation or easing into it. It was just like, bam, here we go. Oh, mom's working. Holy cow.
Oh, wow.
So there was about a month where my husband and my kids were just like, where'd you go? But what we've done is we've just readjusted. So my husband's amazing. He helps with the household. He helps with the kids. He helps with the cooking, with whatever we need. We're truly a team, which is such a blessing. And we just kind of rearranged from me doing most of the stuff, because he was working all the time, and he's still working hard, to a family where 2 people are working. And we make sure that one of us is home with the kids every evening. I make sure that I'm spending, when I am with my children, that I'm giving them quality time. I'm not just like patting them on the head and saying, hey, I'm home. We're playing games or talking or cuddling. All my kids are cuddle bugs. Or, they come to the studio with me. Sometimes I bring them to work with me. That's one blessing about having my own space, is that my kids will come sit in the office and play on my iPad while I teach, happy as larks, because they feel at home here. So really, I just make them a part of it. In fact, I'm hiring my 19-year-old to do my video editing. My girls help me with my workshops, my younger girls. Like, we're doing one next Saturday where we're creating an Italian restaurant in the studio. It's called Eat, Pray, Love. And I'm going to do like a couple blessings and have a big South American despacho shamanic ceremony, and then have a Italian meal. And my daughters are going to be the waitresses. We make it a family affair. And my husband just finished his yoga teacher training, so he's going to be getting much more involved. And it's part of the family. We call ourselves Team Bhakti Sauce. Bhakti is a term in yoga for yoga of devotion to like the divine, like singing, dancing, loving, prayerful stuff. So we call ourselves Team Bhakti Sauce.
Love it. Awesome. And how young are your youngest kids?
So my kids are 7, 11, 13, 15, 16, and 19.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're like have the whole range there.
Yes.
Almost. Nice.
Four of them live with us full time. So.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So they're kind of old enough already to understand, why you're doing this. They're kind of old enough to participate on some level, right?
Yep. And that helps a lot. When they were younger, I don't know if I could have done all this, honestly. I mean, it was harder. It was a lot harder.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I do.
I have a 2-year-old, almost 2.5 now, and she is very, very needy. She always wants to be near me. So I feel like even running one business is sometimes, not that great. Like I just did a live in a group that I'm part of on Friday, which was during the day. So my husband was at work. So I had to do this live with my little baby here with me. And she was calling me over, like banging things on the, on the table. But, got through it. So I'm looking forward to when she is of an age where I can involve her more so she doesn't feel like I'm ignoring her when I'm working. And kind of hope to have kind of like what you have now with your kids participating also in the business. That is something that I very much look forward to as well.
Yeah, the older they get, the easier it gets. And I think one of the best things we can do as mothers is those first few years, like the first 5 or 6 years before they become really independent, are so intense. You're so intensely in that mothering space. To give ourselves some grace on the business department doesn't mean don't work or don't start your business, but just understand that maybe you're going to have to save some of the bigger stuff for when they're older, or you're going to have to stay up at late nights to do it, and just kind of putting that mother job first and then allowing the business to grow at its own pace within the amount of energy you have without wearing yourself out.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that 100%. Yeah, so there are things that I definitely would love to do in my business right now, but I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm a mom first, above everything. Well, maybe not above wife. Like, mom and wife, pretty close together, right? But yeah, totally. So I love that message. Do what you can with the time that you have. And honestly, that's kind of the message of productivity in general, is that, you do, you plan in advance what you can do. You're very realistic about what you can get done and what you can't get done. And then if you can't get something done, then you can be flexible, like you said.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Awesome. Totally. So I'm sure that some people watching or listening also have ideas for like another business that they want to do, or maybe they've had other opportunities come up and they kind of feel like, how do I figure out what I really should go for and what I should say no to? Because really, in order to be effective at managing our time, we really must say no to something, right? And even you, I'm sure with the many businesses that you have, there are even, that much or even more opportunities that you've probably said no to. So how do you make that decision?
So there's a couple things I want to speak to on this. The first is that, like we said at the beginning, my why applies to all my businesses. So I will not say yes to anything that does not serve my why. I need that to be the focus. So that's like a life why, not just a business why. Everything I do is for that purpose of helping people find their divinity, like remember that they're amazing. And then the other thing is that when I do find things that I want to try, when I want to throw them in, I sit with them, I look at them, and then if I decide to do it, I make myself a promise when I start. And it's got multiple parts. The first part is that I'm not going to be attached to any particular outcome. So I'm going to try this thing, but I'm going to be okay with it becoming whatever it becomes. That if it's not serving me, I will let it go without guilt or embarrassment or anything. And I combine those two with just the going into it with flexibility. So I read somewhere or heard on a podcast somewhere, someone saying that every venture we start, the end result is going to be like its distant cousin. Things shift, they mutate, they change. And we go into these businesses and these endeavors with this idea that I want it to look like this in 5 years and this in 1 year, and this is what it has to be. And if it's not that, it's not enough. And so I try to avoid that by saying, okay, well, I'm going to take this interesting idea I have and I'm going to throw it at the wall and I'm going to see if it sticks or see what bucket it falls into. So for instance, I was going to make an online university for Rock and Woo where I did classes and stuff, and I threw it at the wall, and it's generally started dipping down into the bucket for Maha Soul, my yoga studio, where I've come to the realization that Rock and Woo is actually simply going to be my brand. That's me as a teacher. And Maha Soul is where I put all those classes and stuff because that is my studio. That is my venue. And so I try to keep really flexible about where things end up, where they're going, and how I approach them. And I try to always be willing to, as soon as it starts to feel heavy or like it doesn't fit my heart or fit my why, let it go as gently as possible.
Gotcha. Awesome. And you mentioned that you're not attached to the outcome of the venture. So I kind of want to ask you a little bit more about that, because that's an interesting concept. Because usually I think when we think about starting a business, we're always told like, oh, like you got to make a business plan. You got to like see where you're going. You know, like where's this business going to be in the next year, in the next 5 years, you know, like that's the general advice that we're given as business owners. And here you say, you know, you're not attached to the outcome of the business and you kind of let it evolve a little bit. So how do you, when you're starting that business, kind of like, do you have like a vision for it, or how do you start, and how do you, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how do you define like what actions you need to take so that you know that they're serving some higher goal and you're not just doing things randomly?
Absolutely. So I don't not plan. I just plan a little differently. And I'm a very visual person. I need to see things. So I'll often draw little like charts and pictures and diagrams and stuff. But I never set concrete goals. Like, for instance, I'll probably never set a goal like that. By 2019, I want to have 600 people coming into Maha Soul every day. It's probably not going to happen. And I'm just setting myself up for disappointment. So the goals I set is that each year I want to increase as much as possible the amount of people who are entering this building and feeling loved, safe, and at home and part of the family. I take the goals and I put them into my why. I don't think about the money. Instead, I say, my goal is to continue to grow my income until I'm making enough for my family to live comfortably without worry, and to be able to take my kids on trips and do all the amazing things I want to do with them. But I don't set a number. I don't say I need $360,000 for this to be okay, because then we get there and you're like, well, maybe it's not enough. So I try to set my goals in, okay, I always approach them from the place that right now is enough. Everything I have is right here. There's this term in yoga called santosha, and it means contentment. It's actually one of the the 8 limbs of yoga. And so I try to always live in a state of santosha where this is enough. If nothing ever changed, I'd be okay with where I am right now. And then from there, I just think of like cool things that would be great to add if I could. I'd be all right if I don't, but it'd be awesome if I could take my kids to Disneyland. So I'll put that on the goal list. It'd be awesome if we had so many people coming into Maha Soul that we never had to worry about paying the rent. It'd be awesome. And I just kind of, say, hey, God, universe, divine, if that's a thing, show me what I need to do, make it happen. And then I listen to the cool ideas that pop into my crazy ADHD brain and I roll with them and it happens.
That is such a refreshing perspective. I think for me, being in the productivity space, but also for the viewers and listeners too, because that is something that we're always told. It's like, you got to be specific. Like, if you want to make a certain income, you got to write down the number and put it on your wall and look at it every single day and all of that. And you don't do any of that. And it sounds like that's such a low stress way to approach business and life really in general. And it all comes back to your why, right? Like your why in life, and how you allow that to dictate all of the decisions that you make.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that.
I
Sorry,
I was
were
going
you
to say,
gonna
I
say something
think
else?
I just wanted to add that I think when we plan with specifics, which is fine, that really works for some people, and I respect that. But I have found when I plan with specifics, like specific numbers, I limit myself to what's possible. I limit what's possible. So when you plan non-specifically, there are no limits. You don't set those limits. It's the whole law of attraction thing. If someone says, I want to manifest $1 million, and that's where they put their focus and they do all the work necessary for that to happen, because it never just happens. Great.
Right.
They'll probably get $1 million. The universe listens to us. It gives us what we ask for. But if we ask for enough to do specific things or enough for specific energetic outcomes, then we take away all those limitations, and the universe has a lot more room to work for us and on our behalf to build what we're desiring.
That is an interesting perspective, because I was thinking about the law of attraction,
Mm-hmm.
and like, to be honest, I don't know much about it, only what, I've read here and there. But yeah, everything that I've ever read was like, oh, you gotta be, you gotta let the universe have something to work with. But honestly, I'm glad that you say that, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be so specific, because that was kind of like, when I read that stuff, I'm like, well, I don't know how much I need. Like, I want, like you said, like, I want enough to do like X, Y, and Z, but I don't know how much that would end up being, like, especially with things like money. So I am happy to hear your perspective, and I'm going to apply that to my
Awesome.
how I think about things, definitely. So thank you so much for that perspective. That is,
Of
like,
course.
yeah, so refreshing to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something that I feel like I almost have to ask you, because this is a productivity show, so we're moving back into like the nuts and bolts of productivity. But what are some of the tools, so they can be digital or analog? Like, I know you mentioned bullet journal earlier, but what are some of the tools that you use to kind of help you, keep it all organized or straight, or, allow you to do the work that you're doing in your multiple businesses?
Yeah. So I'm visual, like I said. So I need to be able to see things. So I do use Kanban boards. My husband's an agile coach, which is where those really became popular here in America. And so the agile thing they talk about in Screw You, I love, because I'm like, oh, hey, I know that. So I do use the Kanban boards. I have my backlog, my in progress, and my done. And I have those not only on my walls. Let me see if I can show you mine over here. I'm in my office. I'm going to see if this will work. I'm going to make it big enough that I can see where I'm pointing it. Woo! Sorry, guys. You're going for a ride. Let's see. Can I find it? There it is. I put stickers on it because I like rainbows and stuff. And then I also use Trello and 17 Hats. Those are my two go-tos for keeping track of things. But I have been known to buy a poster board or a dry erase board and just draw everything out and plan it that way. I just need to be able to see it. So I guess my productivity hack is find the way that you process information and find systems that work into that. So it's going to be different for everyone.
Oh, yeah, totally. I completely agree. Yeah, that's what I always tell people too. So I am a huge fan of the bullet journal, and that is the exact reason why I love it so much, is that everybody can customize it exactly to what they want, right? So love that. Find out how you work best, and then find the tool that best supports it. That's the best tool advice that that anybody could get, honestly, because there's so many tools right now, and so many people are running around going like, should I learn Asana? Should I learn Trello? Like, what should I do?
There's no one size fits all. We're all so different that I could recommend all the things I use, but for 70% of you, it wouldn't do any good because you're not the same brain type as I am. I am a creative. I'm an artist. I'm a visual learner thinker, and so that works for me. But if you're very logical or very much into systems, that's not going to work for you. Or if you work better in the box of order, some people need a lot more order than I do.
Yep, yeah. And I even though I do a bullet journal, it is probably not as pretty as yours. I do grids, and it's very minimalist, and it's one color, and like the most that I'll do is like I'll go over the letters like 3 or 4 times so that they kind of look a little bit like sketchy.
Nice. Yeah, I will say mine's pretty crafty. I use it as an excuse. I use any excuse I can get to do crafting. So that's my hobby outside of work. So
nice. Wow. Okay. So you have your myriad businesses, your big family, and then you also craft on the side. I love this.
Well,
So
my hustle has a store in it, and I can sell whatever I want there. So I can sell my crafts. So now my crafts become part of my business, and it's no longer just a hobby. It's actually part of the full big picture of serving others. So it's okay.
No, man, I love this. It seems like you have a lot of going on, but then when you talk about how everything ties into the same mission, it doesn't really feel that overwhelming.
It's not. And there's, things are going to shift. This all just really came into place in the last 6 months. And I know this next year is going to be a time of great shift and change. Our church launches in March officially. So that's going to be huge. And the wedding stuff's really picking up. And so I know that I'm going to be riding some waves. There's going to be some months where I probably wouldn't be able to be on this show because I'm going to be so overwhelmed and disorganized that I'm going to be like, ah! But I also know that there's also going to be a time when it all comes into place and I figure out and find out how it's all being put together. Because I don't think I'm putting it together. I feel like the universe is lining all this up for something specific. So the picture becomes clearer and clearer every day. And I just have this feeling that by the end of this year, it's going to be something the same but totally new, and I'll know what fits where and why it all came into being.
I love that. Well, I think that maybe 6 months to a year from now, we got to have you back on the show to see the progress of how, your business has evolved and changed and how your productivity system evolved and changed with that. I think that would be an awesome thing to come back to, rewatch this episode a year later and then see what changed between then and now. I think that would be so awesome.
I would love to do that. I'll mark it on my calendar.
Yeah, very cool.
We'll just schedule it so I don't forget. I always say if it's in my calendar, it's real. If it's not in my calendar, it's not real. It never happened. I don't know anything about it.
Totally the same. It's just remembering to put it in the calendar is the trick, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Not one I'm always that great at.
Yeah, when are we going to have smart calendars? We have smartphones and smart cars, right? When are we going to have smart calendars that just listen in, or maybe not because that's kind of creepy, but that you know what's going on and be like, okay, you have this event at such and such time, here it is in your calendar. When is that coming? I'm ready for that.
That would be amazing. Totally.
So we're kind of gonna wrap up a little bit in a bit here, but I wanted to ask for your final tip for those listening and watching who maybe don't have so many businesses and such a large family, but they're juggling a 9-to-5 and a side hustle or two, or maybe they're a stay-at-home parent and they're working on their business for just an hour or two every night. What is kind of your can you summarize your biggest tip for those who are struggling to get work done and feel overwhelmed maybe a little bit, feel like there's too many plates up in the air? What can they do to really kind of bring it all in and feel zen like you are?
So I think one of the biggest causes of that stress and overwhelm is self-imposed deadlines, self-imposed attachments to the way things have to be. And so my biggest tip would be simply to allow yourself some grace and flexibility. So if you're working a 9-to-5 and your own side hustle, don't take on more work than you can handle, first of all, just to get ahead. Be okay with just enough for the moment. It'll grow at its own pace. But also the work you do have, be flexible. So say you're starting an online university and you want to get it done by the end of next month, that's fine. But if that's not realistic with the time you have, then maybe say by summer or by fall. And say you get to fall and it's still not done, then say, okay, well, I'm going to allow myself to the end of winter. And just be flexible with yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself that you have to get things done exactly like he or she did it in exactly the amount of time, or else you're never going to succeed, because there's plenty for everyone. And no matter when you get your stuff out there, no matter when it's done, no matter how it looks in the end, there's plenty for everyone, and you're going to be okay. You're going to get it done, and you're going to have the people that are supposed to follow you. They're going to come into place, and it's going to turn out exactly the way it needs to. So just allow it to unfold. Let the river flow. Kind of sit on your inner tube and ride it. See what happens for a while instead of trying to row against the current. It makes a huge difference.
Right. And I so agree with that 100%. I just have had a similar situation where I was really like struggling and pulling teeth to get this sales page up. And then it turns out that, it just wasn't time for that. And I spoke with my business mentors and they're like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be doing this other thing. And right when they said it, I'm like, yeah, of course. And that's why it wasn't like coming together. So I 100% like that concept of divine timing. Yeah, just allow yourself the flexibility and the grace to just, let things happen and see where they go, which is not to say that you shouldn't ever make plans, right? But be flexible in the plans that you do make. Love it. Awesome, awesome message. So where can people connect more with you and learn more about what you do?
So I do have the website, rockandwoo.com, which is kind of my branding page. You can find me on Facebook. Whoa, you still there? Okay, sorry, my battery's dying. I'm going to plug it in while we talk because I have the plug-in right here. I thought I had it plugged in. So I do have the Rock and Woo with Jessie B on Facebook. I have my Facebook group, Rock and Woo. And then also Maha Soul is my primary yoga studio. And Amazing Love Sanctuary is my church. So any of those places, if you come to one of them, you'll find the rest of them over time. They'll show up.
Awesome. And I will make sure to link to all of these in the show notes to
Perfect.
This episode as well.
And I can email you those links.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And you have a link that you wanted to share with everybody, right? You are giving something away to the listeners and viewers. So tell us a bit more what it is, and I'm going to put it up here on the screen.
So the link is www.rockandwoo.com/freeficient, I believe. Let me double check that I'm telling you the truth.
Yep, that's what you said. That's what you said.
Okay,
so
yes,
on the screen
yes.
Right now.
Perfect. And after midnight tonight, there's going to be a lovely meditation on there. And what that meditation's purpose is to listen to when you're in a place between work and your entrepreneur stuff, or when you've had a really busy day and you need to just come back into balance, come back into your center, come back into yourself, so that you can move on to the next thing. Because sometimes those transitions between projects are hard when we're working on a lot of things. We get in that space where you're like, oh, I've been doing this all day and I can't get in the headspace for this. So it's like a reset. It's a little moment of pause. It's going to be about 15 minutes long. I'm finishing it up right now. It's that whole letting go of the idea that I had to have it done on time. And also on there is a coupon code, Freeficient, to get 25% off any of my intuitive readings or my experiment spiritual counseling or any of my healing work, which I can do all of it distance. So it doesn't matter where you live. And just as an added bonus, Maha Soul, my yoga studio, is launching an online version of itself in a couple months. That's one of the places I had to be flexible because I wanted to do that on rockandwoo.com, and I've actually decided to move it over to the yoga studio and pull more people in besides just myself, which is probably a good thing. I could get kind of boring after a while just watching me babble all the time. So when that launches, I'm going to send an email, and there's a sign-up sheet on the page I'm sending you to, but it does not sign you up for any lists. So that's not me like trying to get you on my list, although I'd love it if you joined my list, and there's links for that too. But what it will do is I will send you an email as soon as that launches with a code, and you will get 3 months free of all the yoga and everything we're going to be offering on there. And there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff. So
yeah, that is super generous, Jessie. Thank you so much for offering that to Freeficiency viewers and listeners. And that's an online yoga studio, right?
That's what it's going to be. Yep. We're going to build an online, we call it a Sangha in yoga. It's a community. And so it's going to be yoga classes. I'll probably do some of my energy healing training on there, all kinds of cool stuff, ceremonies. It's going to be really awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Like I'm signing up. Like I am super interested in all that you do. And I love your message. I even like on this interview, you're so calming and, you know, like centered. And I'm just like,
yay!
It was just so nice having you on the show. Thank you, Jessie, so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and go ahead and stay on the line with me. Let's chat a little bit for after the show, but I am going to finish up this episode for the viewers and listeners, and then I'll touch base with you again.
Sounds great.
So that was that was Jessie Buchanan, everyone. What an inspiration. I love all the messages that she had for you. And let me know in the comments to this video, what is your number one takeaway? What are you going to do differently now that you've heard how Jessie manages to have so many plates up in the air with multiple businesses, a family, all of that stuff? So let me know, what's one thing that you can implement from what you've heard today in your life? And I hope to see you right here again next week, Sunday at 8 p.m. Central Time, where we will have another awesome episode of the Free Efficient Entrepreneur Show. And up until then, this is Anna Cragen, encouraging you to keep building your dreams one day at a time. I will see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Free Efficient Entrepreneur Show. You can find more great content like this at freeefficiency.com.